Welcome to Tech Twice Weekly for December 15th, 2014. This is your source for the most important technology news and discussion every Monday and Thursday evening. I'm your host, Ben White, and tonight I'm joined by my good friend, Eric Fee. How's the weekend treat you, man?
Pretty good. Shot a bunch of guns.
Ooh, nice. Anything particular?
My buddy's hand-built 308 rifle. It's pretty awesome.
Ooh, go out to I don't know, we don't really have a quarry around here. Well, I guess we do.
It's just my friend's property.
Oh, nice. Was that the guy I met when you were moving?
Yep.
Ah, very nice. Yeah, he seemed to sounds like he had quite the property to go hang out on.
Oh yeah, it was a good time.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I got a potential invite sometime after the new year to go up and shoot some machine guns, possibly with some friends up in Seattle. Somebody has some ammunition they need to lose.
Awesome.
Because, if the military doesn't use up all their rounds, they get docked. So sometimes some rounds have to disappear. But I'm sure you know how that works. What am
Yes,
I
sir.
what am I looking at?
It's just a keychain for me. I think it's backwards for you.
Volkswagen. No, I can see it. It's good.
Yeah, I'm just reminiscing. We were just talking about my old car.
Oh, right, right. Soon to be reborn.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Well, let us know when you start working on that project because I would love to talk about the highlights and at least let you tell us as that comes together. But I suppose we should jump into our top stories.
Roger that.
All right. Well, tonight we begin with news from TechSpot on Microsoft adding MKV support natively to Windows 8.1. We've previously heard about Microsoft adding FLAC and MKV support to the upcoming Windows 10, but now they've also gone back and added MKV support to Windows 8.1, allowing MKV files to be played directly without needing to download any third-party applications or plugins. I personally haven't had a chance to try running any MKV files directly under Windows 8.1 yet, so I can't speak to how well it handles the codec playback, but I'm sure we'll soon see some professional reviews soon. GeekWire is covering news that the rideshare service Uber has begun offering its services in Portland, Oregon last Friday, despite city officials making it clear that the company is operating outside the law. Currently, Uber drivers are not yet being issued fines or penalties. However, the city commissioner, Steve Novick, told GeekWire that they will be working with local law enforcement to document the total number of penalties that Uber drivers and the company should receive. Despite all of this, so far Uber has not yet released any public statement aside from stating that Uber has received a warm welcome by its customers in Portland. This also this also is only the latest in a history of Uber beginning operations in a city without regulatory approval. So, behavior like this is really nothing new for Uber. What do you think of Uber rolling out in our fair city here?
Uber and the other ride-sharing services really have had a very checkered past of recent, and I'm wary to embrace their shenanigans. Um, Although I think that something like this is kind of necessary as the cab industry is just basically run amok. Um, so I'm very conflicted by them coming to my town.
Right? I feel the same way. I mean, especially because Portland isn't a big taxi town to begin with, not the way New York or San Francisco is by any means. But at the same time, I like the idea of a rideshare service allowing people to provide rideshare services in their downtime and things like that. And I like the service that Uber is trying to present. I'm just not sure I like their business practices.
Yeah, I'm I've heard a lot of kind of shady stories about things that have happened when in Uber cabs. And I've also been reading recently about what it's like to be a driver for Uber, which makes it sound less than stellar and significantly not as much cool as you might think by reading their adverts and their blog posts and whatnot. Apparently, people who drive Uber cabs really aren't making a significant more amount of money than actual cab drivers are when taxes and uh, other money sinks like their cars are poured into the mix. I think that the whole the cab medallion and the cab monopoly really needs to kind of end. We need to have a better yet still regulated service than we currently have. But at the same time, I think while Uber fills some of those uh, notions, they don't necessarily go all the way. And there will likely either be one of two things: either one, cabs will all go away and we'll be relying on these services, or vice versa, these services will go away from being litigated into the ground um, and run out of towns. And I really wish that we could actually take this as a learning opportunity, look at the problems that we're having with the cab industry, and then fix those.
Yeah, no, that'd be nice. I agree. I don't think it's necessarily going to go that way, but it would be nice to see. And I mean to a certain extent, the cab industry has to look at this, learn from it, see what's making Uber successful compared to the cab industry, and adjust. Because I think the cab industry can keep its foothold overall, um, but who knows if they can't adapt and grow to the changing times, Uber's going to be able to come in and eat their lunch.
There are a lot of things about Uber that make it special, like people owning their own cars and people, being able to work when they have time and all that. I think those are very nice. The only problem I have is that you don't have the thorough checks that you do with cab drivers. You don't have um, regulations and laws and traffic law built around allowing cabs to do their work. You have no assurances about the driver or the service that runs them. You have very little, if any, kind of uh, recompense if something happens that you don't like. Um, and I really think that we could make a better system than cabs if we used some of Uber's mindset for it. But I don't think that Uber will ever completely replace the cab as far as its place in society goes.
Yeah, no, I could definitely understand that. And I think one of the biggest things that Uber has an advantage over the traditional cab is just it rooting itself in the smartphone environment. You don't have to call a dispatcher and get a cab. And I think as cabbies move towards being able to be hailed mobily, I think that's going to help them fight against Uber as well. Well, the next story we got here is from Engadget, and they're covering an effort that Google has made recently to make Android app development more user-friendly by introducing a new WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get editing environment called Android Studio. The new Android Studio software includes new templates to help first-time developers get their feet wet with Android app development. Another feature of the Android Studio is integration with GitHub, allowing developers to import code directly from GitHub into your projects. We'll have a link to download Android Studio in the show notes if you want to check it out. TechCrunch is reporting on Amazon rolling out a new Make an Offer option on some select products, allowing buyers to offer a lower price to the seller. Amazon has said that they plan to add the Make an Offer feature to hundreds of thousands of items by 2015. This feature puts Amazon in direct competition with auction sites like eBay, although they have made it clear that Make an Offer is not intended to be seen as an auction because you're not bidding against anyone. All offers are single one-to-one sales between the buyer and the seller. what do you think of this concept of make an offer? You know, say I want this shirt, or I don't know, this some random product on Amazon, and you're asking $45, and I say I'll give you 40 for it. Do you think it's kind of gimmicky?
I think that this might be really nice for people who have specific prices, but also just want to get merchandise out. Makes having an Amazon store a little bit more flexible. I think they're trying to draw certain storefronts from eBay, which are I'll give you the best I can give you for, versus Amazon, which is a strictly single set price store pages. I like it. I think that it will bring uh, more stores with uh, esoteric or hard to find merchandise that you usually would only find in eBay. I also think it allows users to have a better value proposition of what they're buying. So if I need a specific part for an old motorcycle that you could usually only get on eBay or an eBay store or something before, now I can do that through Amazon and use the Amazon Pay instead of PayPal and use Amazon shipping stuff instead of PayPal and all that. Because I like eBay for sure, but I really don't like PayPal, which is the biggest problem with eBay in my opinion. So I think this will allow me to shop a little bit smarter and hopefully bring over some storefronts that have uh, items that are rare enough where they really don't have just a set value.
Yeah, I think it definitely has its place, especially like you're saying, among hard to find rare items, art pieces that people might be selling, where you may have a lot of prints of something that's an art piece you've made, but the price on some of that stuff is it's hard to come up with. It's not something that's mass manufactured where it's easy to come up with an exact price for all the items. So I think it's good. I think it's and honestly, there's nothing to be lost by it. It's just another feature that you can take advantage of to sell through Amazon.
Right. And there's not really a lot of resources to contact the seller like there is on eBay. On eBay, the seller is another person with a person's account, and you can send them a message or send them a message about a certain item or get an open discussion right on the auction page. And a lot of stuff on eBay is becoming buy it now because it's just becoming a general store.
Hmm.
And being able to see it, buy it now, and contact the seller and say, well, look, I'll take 10 of these, but I will only purchase them for X price, is a kind of a powerful option. And being able to do that on Amazon, I think, will bring over certain sellers that have been stuck to eBay.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about using it in connection with a bulk buy. That really could make it an effective option for some sales.
Yeah. Uh,
Well, going along with announcements, ever since Windows 10 was announced, there's been speculation on if Microsoft would move to a subscription model. Recently, Chief Operating Officer Kevin Turner spoke during an investors meeting on Microsoft's plans to monetize the Windows operating system going forward. According to Turner, there has been no discussion on releasing the Windows OS as a loss leader, but that the company was aware they needed to find a different way to make the operating system profitable. Turner also said that the company is looking into finding new ways to monetize the lifetime of the customer, hinting at the possibility of ongoing payments instead of focusing on a one time single license purchase as they have previously. And given that Microsoft's doing this with their Microsoft Office products, Office 365, I don't think this is such a long shot. What do you think about the idea of signing up for a subscription to Windows rather than just picking up a one off license as we always have before?
I think that the operating system development branch at Microsoft hasn't had a lot of experience with this kind of software development, but I think that there could be certain value added in if done correctly. That you should never have to pay for a base operating system, and your computer should never be hinged on working or not based on either a payment or an internet connection. You should be able to get on your computer when you want, use it for when you want. You should be able to shut it off for 10 years, turn it on, and get on it again. whether you have internet or not, or you're in the same country or not, or whatever. So I don't think that the base operating system should ever be any kind of subscription model. In fact, I think it should be free, and I'll tell you why. Because I think they should focus on adding value with other services. Office 365 is just one of them, and though I think it's a little bit too expensive for a home user, which is why a lot of people have been still going towards other services, especially like Google Drive and all their Google Docs and all that. But I think that they should focus on making things affordable and adding value. They can add value by, of course, incorporating things like Office 365 support, adding things like online backup, adding access and storage to their SkyDrive service, adding applications that can be used that need updates, that are online, that are real type of applications. They can focus on bundling in a lot of applications that they make that usually aren't with Windows by saying, well, you can install the operating system and then you can log on, or you can install the operating system and log on with your Microsoft account, which costs $5 a month, and that will give you access to SkyDrive with a bunch of extra storage. It'll give you access to Office 365. It'll give you access to other applications. It'll give you remote access. It'll allow you to install on multiple computers. You can get on and have all your settings, everything already turned on and everything. So we'll sync your desktop. We'll do all this stuff for you for that extra on top price. And by making it attractive like that, they can bring users in. Microsoft is kind of fighting an uphill battle right now, trying to make themselves more relevant to everyday computing, where people have prioritized less about the operating system and more about what they can do with it. And the thing about Windows is it's always come bundled with a bunch of applications, but they've always been kind of crap. Internet Explorer, ever since Firefox, or at that time Firebird came out, people have flocked away from Internet Explorer. Now that VLC is a home name, people don't use Media Player anymore. Now that iTunes and FooBar and other music programs, no one wants to use Windows Media Player. And there are lots of those. Microsoft Paint is completely useless, except for like annotating an image to draw something on it. A lot of the Windows Movie Maker, Windows Windows burning applications always not been very good. They have a chance to turn these applications into something that can make money, and make money in a really cool subscription-based, cloud-based, hey, all your stuff is everywhere type of way. But I think that they're just going to screw it up, even though they have the chance to kind of make themselves a little bit more connected, a little bit more available, and add value. That's the important part. See, no one's going to want to buy an OS disk and then pay for it every month, or get a free one and pay for it every month, because they don't want their computer to cost money other than what the power and internet and maintenance and CDs and other software that they already have to pay. But I think that if they focus on the most important thing, which is making the consumer's life better and adding value, they could totally make money in a subscription-based model.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely. I think that's a really great summary of what Microsoft really needs to do to make this profitable if they're going to go the route of subscriptions. And I don't know, I kind of expect them to almost go both ways on this, that allow OEM purchases of one-off instances for the first round and go with subscription-based models for their enterprise agreements with businesses. But we'll have to see. Time will tell. I mean, there's a lot of details surrounding Windows 10 that are still unknown and haven't been leaked out yet. So this is something that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on, though, going forward, and keep an eye on the news stream, because I would like to know more about this as it comes together. Well, Google Hangouts has added a new and possibly intrusive feature recently that allows the service to listen in on your conversations. This eavesdropping allows Hangouts to give users smart suggestions in their chat. Engadget gives the example of a friend asking, "Where are you?" and Hangouts prompting you to share your location by opening a map so you can pinpoint your exact location. Hangouts will also listen for other phrases and messages thanks to artificial intelligence provided by the company Emu, which was purchased recently by Google. Another long awaited feature being added in the recent Hangouts update is timestamping, allowing users to see when another user was last online. Lastly, they've also added more stickers, bringing the total up to over 16 pages. What do you think about Google listening in for these little suggestions? I mean, granted, we're all aware Google's kind of listening in to everything we do anyway, in a manner of speaking, just for marketing and AdSense and whatnot. But what about them giving back a little bit by using the information they're gathering to give potentially helpful suggestions?
Well, I don't have a lot to say about this, but I will say that this is just Google Now for your chat window. You will now have access to all the Google Now type stuff that you normally would get with your web searches and with your emails. Now it's just with and through your chat. And the idea that this is intrusive, absolutely true. More intrusive than anything else Google does? Not at all. They already scan every other piece of data you have for information to give you possibly valuable suggestions with. The fact that they will also add it to Hangouts is totally sauce a mile away.
Yeah, I agree. I think it simply was a matter of getting the right technology to do a nice, seamless implementation of the technology. But the fact that they've done it isn't surprising. And honestly, I mean, if my trade-off is Google reads my data and I get nothing for it, or Google reads my data and I get something out of it, I'd rather at least get something. Well, speaking of getting something, Nokia announced last week that they've officially released their Maps application for Android OS to the Google Play Store. Previously, Nokia Maps were available for Android, but only as a side-loaded APK. iOS users are still left out in the cold. According to Nokia, there won't be an iOS release until early next year. Based on reviews, though, Nokia's apps are rated among the top 4 mapping platforms, along with Google, TomTom, and OpenStreetMaps. Do you think you're going to jump on Nokia Maps, or are you going to stick with Google Maps?
So when I saw this, I had to try it because Nokia is famous for their well-made applications, and they're well-made everything effectively. So I went on and I downloaded the app and I started to mess with it, and I have to say it is freaking cool. Not only are the directions good, the interface is excellent, and it allows offline maps, which is something that Google Maps does not really do. They kind of do, but they super nerfed it a while ago to the fact that where now it's practically useless. But with Here, which is the name of Nokia's mapping application, you can go in and select whatever maps you want to download, and as long as you have space for them, you can have whatever you want. You can pre-download whole states in the United States, or you can download the whole country. You can download other whole countries, and at that point, it makes it work completely offline. So, I suggest you give it a shot because it's really nice.
Awesome. That's really cool. I have it queued up to check it out here, but I hadn't had a chance to actually fire up the application myself. So I'm glad you were able to give it a spin. That's really cool. I've been lit with Waze. I typically haven't looked at Google Maps directly in a long time, but I would definitely be willing to give Nokia Maps a shot. And our last story for the night, BitTorrent has launched a new internet browser named Project Maelstrom. The new web browser the next web shares the announcement of BitTorrent starting a private beta test of the new internet browser aimed at using peer-to-peer technology to help keep the internet open to users. Currently, not a whole lot of details of the project have been released, but once more private beta testers get their hands on the software, I'd expect to see some leaked information. I just signed up for the private beta test this evening, so I'm in the queue. Potentially, that means I could get an invite to the software, and if I do, I'll definitely pass my feedback along on the show. What do you think about the idea of using BitTorrent peer-to-peer technology for web browsing?
I saw this last week and I thought it was very interesting. I'm not sure what that's really going to mean. I'm not sure how it's going to work in a actually browsing the internet sort of way, but I'm thinking it could be really cool because it basically takes off the cost of hosting a website. It takes away the bandwidth limitations and all that of hosting a website. But I also question what kind of applications are going to be able to be written for this kind of browsing environment. We're so used to web browsers not just being able to browse hypertext, but being able to use like full-fledged what would used to have to be computer applications functioning in a very awesome and very fast way. And I'm just curious what kind of environment and apps are going to be available for something like this.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, and time will tell as this moves along. Hopefully, eventually into an open beta, I imagine. But I'm curious. I don't know if this is tracker based, if this uses that portion of the BitTorrent technology, that maybe websites are hosted via a tracker in some fashion. I don't know exactly. Like I said, there's really very minimal information provided by BitTorrent at this time, but I know their last project, BitSync, has been very successful, and I use it myself to manage my local backups, and I've been really happy with it. And so, if they're able to be as successful with this new project, I have no doubt that it's going to be something that'll become a strong contender for at least whatever market it's targeting. Well, that wraps up our top stories for this evening, and didn't really find any tech toys for tonight to go over, so we'll hopefully have some of those to cover on Thursday. But that brings us straight into our discussion topic, and we've got two stories that are related. I wanted to get your opinion on. First is about not really, well, BitTorrent in a way, I guess, but the Pirate Bay has been taken offline. The torrent site that has successfully evaded shutdown for years and years now was finally taken down just this week, or I guess just last week. And right now, there seems to be no official replacement. Some services have attempted to put a replica site up, particularly IsoHunt has put a, I guess, unofficial version of the Pirate Bay back online, but there's been no official Pirate Bay put back online yet. Just today, the Pirate Bay officially came out with a statement saying that they've not yet decided if they're going to try and come back. It's the first public announcement since the raid on their facilities. But, well, the question is, do we need the Pirate Bay? Right now, there's a lot of stories going around, especially on Torrent Freak, Consumerist, and VentureBeat, particularly talking about how some of the original founders are saying the Pirate Bay may not be necessary anymore, that it's outlived its usefulness, and perhaps even if it does come back, it's time for a full refresh from the ground up. What do you think, Eric? I mean, I know we've both had our time as quote-unquote pirates on the Pirate Bay and in our pre-job days back in high school and such. Is the Pirate Bay still a resource that you've looked at anymore?
They didn't have torrents when I was in high school.
Yeah, tail end, senior year.
I was in high school when you were a senior.
Well, okay, you weren't anymore in high school, but you were high school aged.
Well, I will say that I think there's definitely some merit. Um, the Pirate Bays was kind of a cluster near the tail end, and it was rife for observation by all parties. I think that torrents and illegal copyright infringement will be still be rife, just in smaller circles, tighter groups, private trackers, peer exchange, DHT. A lot of these technologies kind of make the Pirate Bay a little less important. Makes the centralized tracking of stuff a little less important. Um, and plus, there are plenty of search engines out there that aren't Google that will get you results for things that you want. Um, I the thing that I really think that in a lot of ways, um, the pirating of copyright material shouldn't really be that necessary to begin with. I I like to believe that um, content providers and copyright owners would get their heads out of their butts and offer services in a manner in which people want for a price that they want, and stop demanding that we, the consumers, should bend over backwards for to their greatness, when in fact they should be bending over backwards to make us happy. I'm pretty unhappy with the anti-consumer uh, treatment that a lot of bigger companies and conglomerates and groups like MPAA kind of give to consumers. Um, we've seen the we've seen the rise of really awesome internet radio. We've seen the rise of free or pay what you want or inexpensive and really good indie music, like Boot Camp and all that. We've seen the rise of cheap and available MP3s, uh, or iTunes AAC or whatever, in unlocked formats that we can convert and put on what devices we want, listen to when we want and how we want. And this is all great, but we haven't seen the same thing with video, which is the biggest problem. We've seen video games take a better turn in a lot of ways. Some game companies out there are still making a lot of crap with really disgusting DRM that like doesn't work or is hampering or causes problems or nerfs performance. But in a lot of ways, we've also seen the rise of Steam taking over a lot of that DRM to be a really usable format. Most people that I know use Steam to buy and play most of their video games and really like it. And I am one of those. I think that it's a great way of doing DRM without all the negatives. Like I said earlier about Microsoft, Valve with Steam doesn't just make your games more restrictive; it adds value. It allows you to search for them, play them, keep all their information, sync all the save games. You can install them wherever you want. You can play wherever you want. You can join games with the Steam multiplayer stuff. You can talk to your friends. You can see what your friends own. You can, buy games. They have really great sales. Steam has really curbed a lot of video game piracy. iTunes has curbed a lot of music piracy, and Amazon, which I use more often typically, but they have curbed a lot of music piracy. And I was hoping that Netflix would curb a lot of uh, movie piracy, movie and television piracy. And I think it has in some ways, but the studios aren't letting Netflix do what they're supposed to do, which is to offer consumers what they want, how they want it, and at the price they want it. Instead, movie studios are still dictating to consumers what they can and can't have and how much it's going to cost and when they're going to have it. And as much as I like to see movies in theaters, which I think is still fun, I also don't like not being able to buy a movie on DVD for a reasonable price, having to wait a long time to do it. And when I do, being forced to sit through and watch a bunch of stinking ads on a thing I just paid for. And this is like especially bad with Disney, which, by the way, is like the biggest offender as far as copyright abuse goes, and their capability of forcing people to pay an exorbitant amount of money by making limited runs, by using the stupid Disney Vault. Um, and as much as I wish piracy didn't need to be there, I still think that the movie industry needs a kick in the ass on how to treat its consumers and how to act. The fact of the matter is, if a brand new DVD cost $15, they'd still be exploding with money. If a brand new DVD was available the day after it stopped its theater run, they'd still make boatloads of money. If they had online services where you could download and keep a list of your things, kind of like Amazon does, but not limited to watching it online with their stupid player. You could actually download a movie and then put it on your laptop or transcode it to your phone. I think it'll still make boatload of money, maybe even more. But the fact of the matter is this: they don't respect us. They don't care about us. All they care about is making money for a group of people at the very top of these companies who are pocketing all that cash on the way out the door. And everyone involved in every little name involved all the way down to the bottom gets nothing. And then on the other side of the coin, the consumers basically get shafted for what they should be getting for much less at a much easier way. And without piracy, I don't know if music would be where it is today with the radio and all that. Without piracy, I don't know if game developers would be moving in the direction that they're going. I don't think indie games would be as popular. I don't think that Steam would be as indie game friendly. I don't think that a lot of the progress we've had would be there if it wasn't for piracy. Now, not to say that people should go out and pirate, because I don't think that. I just think that companies should realize what they need to do is make life better and add value. Do for the consumer, and they will do for you. But these with Pirate Bay shutting down, I'm not sure if the movie industry is going to move where they need to move.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you brought up some really excellent points there, because I agree. I think pirating and torrents and fueled by the Pirate Bay, among other torrent sites, but largely spearheaded by the Pirate Bay, was a big influence to the changes we've seen in music and the changes we've seen in software and gaming. I couldn't tell you the last time I bought a video game as a standalone box. It just isn't done anymore. You still can, I suppose. I know Freddy's still has games on their shelf, and Best Buy still has games on the shelf, but I don't know why I would. I don't know why I'd want a physical box of any game nowadays. And I'm willing, while originally the champion cry was DRM free, I think in some circumstances, when done well, DRM can be fine, especially if it's transparent, as in the case with many titles on Steam. I know there's DRM in place. Steam itself is its own layer of DRM, but I don't notice it. It doesn't hamper my experience or my enjoyment of the title I've chosen to purchase, and that's the most important part of successful DRM, is that I don't notice that it's there.
Well, not only that, but Steam adds value. It doesn't just make their games extremely difficult to pirate. It adds value. It makes my gaming experience better. I don't know about you, but it makes my gaming experience better.
Definitely. I think you're right. That's the biggest part right there, is that between organizing friends list, allowing you to get your multiplayer games together much easier. It's got community, so you can get groups, screenshot sharing. They just recently rolled out the streaming service, so you can watch your friends play games. It's really good about bringing people together, which previously on a bunch of independent platforms could be very difficult to do.
And there were a lot of multiplayer game platforms before Steam, but they were bad.
Right. And everything was independent. So if your friends were all over here, if you didn't go over there, you weren't doing their thing. It wasn't like with Steam where you can see what your friends are playing. Oh, look, some new title just came out and 16 of my friends are all playing it. Maybe I should go check that out. But to answer the question of if I think we need Pirate Bay to come back, I don't know. I know personally I don't go there very often. I used to be quite the frequent viewer, a lot for software and games back in the day, but I think a lot of those industries have changed their ways. Videos, though, still haven't caught on. It's the one stalwart in the shift, but I'm not sure if the Pirate Bay coming back is going to be the movement that affects that change at this point. I think by and large the media industry has shown that they're pretty content sticking to their guns for a while longer, and I think it might be a different approach that comes out of the woodwork to force movies and TV to get the play ball and get into the marketplace in the way the consumers would like to actually consume them. But I don't know. It would be nice for nostalgia's sake to see the Pirate Bay come back, but I'm not sure that they're necessarily as integral as they once were in the height of the DRM free movement. Any final thoughts before we wrap up the show here? I think we've covered all the real angles on this story.
I think I just talked my head off like for the whole show.
All right. Well, no, I think we had a great show tonight. I'm very happy with the conversations we've had here. So we'll take that and get us out of here. Anything you want to share with the listeners before we get out?
Yeah, if you ever have to change the gear oil in a manual Jeep Cherokee, don't try and do it from under the truck, under the Jeep. Take the center console out, stick a tube down through the transmission tunnel, and then that's how you get to the fill port. Learn that lesson the hard way.
All right. I'll keep that in my list of things to remember. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening. Appreciate you downloading the show, checking us out. We're online, techtwiceweekly.com. You can subscribe to the show there. We're in Blueberry. We're in Stitcher. Plenty of great places to get the show. iTunes, of course. And always on YouTube, on Twitter, at techtwiceweekly. We will be back on Thursday for another episode. Have a great night, everybody.